Yeah, you're welcome along to Trader Chat. It's time to reflect on the Cheltenham that was 4 days of 8.5 spread, proving to be exactly correct in terms of the GB versus Ireland battle. And we're going to laud Flynn on that and talk about a Friday that was probably quite bad for the bookies, but I suspect the other 3 days weren't too bad. We also talk about the racing coming up, the Curragh and Doncaster on the link, and all the flat is back in Britain and Ireland this weekend. We talk about Formula One, a little bit of football, a little bit of golf, and the week ahead. But Flynn, you're over Cheltenham. How are you getting on? Are you back in the land of the living?
I'm just about over it. It's a real long 4 days, especially when you're there every day. The pitching up time for us is 10 o'clock, so we got to be at the track for about 9 each day. So I tend to leave where we're staying in Portsmouth on the Water at about 8, get there for 9, do the pitch, and then you're there until about 6 o'clock, and then you leave at 7. Obviously, they're long days, and they're even longer when you're losing. And if people were watching ITV during the week, they would have seen that Ben was on ITV saying that we were £2 million down. That was after 2 days. And to be honest, it didn't get much better after that. We'll delve into the day by day as we go. You did mention the Pressure Cup Handicap there, which GB actually won this year. We priced it up at -8.5 for Ireland and +8.5 for GB. And it was 10 to 11 each of 2 to start with. Then it was Ireland we actually saw the money for. So the punters got it wrong on this occasion. We shortened Ireland into 8 to 11. So GB getting 10 winners on the board. Even the Willie charge on the Friday couldn't get Ireland over the line there. So GB won the handicap this year. I'm sure that we'll get one up for next year. And it'll be interesting to see whether that line would have changed at all, bearing results from this year, Johnny.
Yeah, the handicap's obviously key to the handicap in that sense. That it's just a good festival for the British and the handicaps, and something that we'll peruse over as the season goes on. Let's start though with Tuesday, which is obviously notable for Honeysuckle winning the champion hurdle. I did say that the first 2 races might set the tone for the British. I was kind of right, because they did win the Arkle and the Supreme, and an unbelievable performance by Constitution Hill. It feels like a long time ago now, but I presume this wasn't a great day for the firm.
It wasn't. The first 2 days were definitely days for the punters. You talk about Constitution Hill there. It was probably the most impressive performance I've ever seen at Cheltenham. I was there at Sandown when he won the first day, and I thought he was breathtaking then. I thought he had plenty to prove, but he went ahead and proved it. I think John Bond's a pretty smart horse as well, back in second, to be fair. So those two just look clear of the rest, and Constitution Hill clear of the second. We laid £50,000 in the office at 9 to 4, which was widely reported on the day. And was the only loser in both on-course books on the day as well. So we're off to a terrible start with Constitution Hill, and then we moved on to the Arkle.
Yeah, the Arkle produced another good performance as well from one of the home hosts, and the Irish horse just coming a little bit unstuck here. But this was probably a bit more of an even book, was it?
He was a poor result in the office, Edwardstone. I think because the GB horse had got in the first race. He was always strong in the market, Edwardstone, as well, to be fair. He never really drifted out. I thought he might have gone 7 to 2 or something like that, but he never quite got out to those prices. He was always around 11 to 4, 3 to 1, 5 to 2. He was a poor result in the office, but not a terrible one for me on course. Lofty did lay it on the bottom rail, because obviously we've got 2 pitches. So we lost in 2 places on Edwardstone in the Arkle. So not the best result for us there, no.
3-0 to the Brits in the Ultimate. Corach Rambler winning at 10s, and a disappointing favourite tipped up by yours truly in Fleur.
Yeah, exactly. Really well supported Fleur on the day. Corach Rambler actually wasn't a great result, and it wasn't a great race on the places either, to be fair. So 3-0 to the Brits, and it was 3-0 to the punters against us here at Star, unfortunately.
Honeysuckle goes off 8 to 11, and it was a performance. I guess you just wonder why you didn't back her. Did you lay appreciate it though?
We didn't lay appreciate it. The only horse that we laid was Honeysuckle, and you have to imagine at this stage those trebles and those doubles are starting to really stack up in those multiples, with Constitution Hill going in, Edwardstone going in, and then you get into Honeysuckle. They're really starting to cop here. A lot of them had Gaelic Warrior in, which we'll come on to shortly. But Honeysuckle capped off a great day for the punters, really, in the office and on track, and she got some reception coming in. She was just backed off the boards. But I say backed off the boards, she actually drifted, but we were still seeing the money, if that makes sense. I feel like these short ones at Cheltenham, there are artificially inflated short price favourites, if that makes sense. So an 8 to 11 shot, that's probably a true price closer to 2 on. She did drift out to 8 to 11, but that didn't stop the money coming for her at all. So when I say she's backed off the boards, she was backed off the boards with us in terms of our liability. So yeah, not a great result for us. And that was just the kind of theme for day one, really.
Yeah, Rachel Blackmore was on the floor, though, in the next race. To Tell Me Something Girl, who was travelling possibly like a winner, being brought down. And this race went to 80-1 Maria's Rock. I couldn't believe the British won this, but they did.
Yeah, fantastic result in the book, this one, to be fair. But again, you're not seeing quite the turnover, especially in the multis and stuff that you are seeing in the other races. Queen's Brook looked like a massive threat, but she just kind of petered out a little bit and was just being by the better horse on the day. But Queen's Brook was really well backed into around 7-2 and would have been the biggest loser for us. Tell Me Something Girl, it was unfortunate to see Tell Me Something Girl come down. Quite a few falls last week, unfortunately. I guess you are going to get that when they're kind of going lickety-split pace. But yeah, it wasn't a bad result in the book at all with Marie's Rock 5, but we were still well behind at this stage.
You mentioned Gaelic Warrior as well. He was probably one of the good things this week, but just beaten by a little bit of experience. For all that, Brazil would have been a very unlucky loser. And then you had what I didn't like, one of two very, very poorly supported novice chasers on the card, with Statler bolting up, albeit Run Wild Fred was sent off favourite in the old 4-miler.
Yeah, so we were very, very thankful to get Gaelic Warrior beat. It was a big loser on course, and it was a big loser in the office. But what I would say is, when we did get the short ones beat in the week, it just felt like the next worst result went in. So Brazil would have been the next worst result on course, was the next worst result in the office. Very well supported. The other horse that was well supported in that race was HMSC horse that went off 8-1. But Brazil going off 10-1 was the next worst result. So even though we got Gaelic Warrior beat and those multiples went down, and we did lay a few big bets in the office, it was the kind of second, third in that was going to get in the job done. So we weren't kind of copping the absolute lot. On the last race, we just spoke about Statler there. Absolutely routed them in the National Hunt Chase. I think that race, in general, I was speaking to Rory, our head of football, about it, that I think that National Hunt Chase now being 3 mile 6. I just think it's turning into like a classic 3 mile chase rather than like plodders going on to win it like Le Broy and those type of horses. I just think it's going to be a race for kind of classy staying chasers, and it will just be horses that it just further dilutes the Festival Novice Chase and the old RSA, unfortunately. But it was a decent result on course, actually, that one. It was a level one in the office. Run Wild Fred was the one they really came for. That was the one that we really didn't want.
On to day 2, and obviously I didn't have a good day, I have to say. I got involved in Shishkin, rarely back to horse, but I couldn't really see him being beaten, and that was my day 2. But it started well for punters, with Sir Gerhard obviously winning in the quagmire that it was on day 2, and then Long Press win at 9-4. This was a race that was notable for the scratches before it.
It certainly was. I mean, Sir Gerhard was really hard to get in the book on course. Ben came down to the pitch, and I had 5-6 up for ages. He shouted, "I'll take 6-5, I'll take 6-5," and we just couldn't lay him at all. It was 8-11 at the SP. It was no good in the office, as you can imagine. The multiples didn't end up landing on this day because of, as you just said, Shishki and Tiger going down a little bit later on. But it was not a good result in the singles for the first race with Sir Gerhard. Never really looked in doubt, did it, for Sir Gerhard, even though the rain did come and he was a little bit hard to lay. But never looked in doubt for him. We managed to avoid Long Press on course. It was a weird betting fee, this one, because obviously Brave Man's Game came out about 25 minutes before the off, so we were actually betting on the race whilst he came out. So it was a weird one, kind of taking these non-runners out. Fury Road came out as well, and obviously putting the rule falls in. We did lay 20 grand at 9-4 in the office on Long Press. I thought he was pretty impressive. The one they wanted to be with on course was Farouk Belen. Was travelling really well up to the second last, obviously going to stay all day. I think he probably could have had something to say to Long Press.
Had a good bet on him to place as well.
Bloody hell, what a nightmare. I laid a monkey euro at 6, and then I laid a monkey euro at 11-2 on the pitch. So there were obviously a couple of Irish punters who thought he was going to go well. I was really well back towards the off. So unfortunate to see him go down. And obviously David Russell didn't have the best of weeks, but he'll be back to fight another day. I'm sure he'll ride a load of winners at Punchestown. But that was the Festival Novice Chase. And then onto the Coral Cup. Did you bet the winner here at 50s, Johnny?
I did not. I backed a stablemate of the winner at a similar price who was pulled up. This was one of the weirdest races I've ever seen at Cheltenham. I mean, there must have been about 100 lengths first to last coming into the straight in the final time.
I mean, the ground was just absolutely atrocious at this point, and obviously it was atrocious to be standing in. The rain all day just did not stop. Normally, when you're on course and it's raining, you get 20 minutes, half-hour respite, but we just got no respite all day. It was horrific. Commander of Fleet absolutely loved it. A proper result for us after the first 2 tough results, which was good to see. Ashdale Pod was well backed into 14-1 from 20 on course, but Commander of Fleet was a decent result for us there. Obviously got good back class from that It was from the Albert Bartlett, wasn't it? When it came second to Manella Rindo, I think it was, and Allaho was in the race. So does have decent back class, commander of fleet, and obviously some things have gone wrong with him, but he's managed to pull it back and take the Coral Cup at 50s.
So on to the champion chase. Energumene was well back 5-2. I couldn't really see how he turned it around with Siskin, but Siskin pulled up. Chacun Poursois fell, which left it a slightly strange race with Envoy Alain looking like he might win it at one stage and land a bit of a gamble, but Energumene was a clear-cut winner.
Yeah, Envoy Alain really well backed, actually. Really peculiar to see him being well bet in the ring. Energumene was one of our biggest losers of the week. We had 150,000 at 100 to 30, so 150 to win 500,000, £500,000 in the hole, unfortunately. What was quite funny was I got the text from Ben saying, I've laid this. I was like, okay. And then he's come down to the pitch at about 3:15, and he just gives me this little tap on the shoulder and says, what race is this? And I said, it's the Queen Mother, Ben, the one you've laid 150,000 in. And he said, okay, cool. And he turns around and he starts slapping the board going, what a race, gents, what a race on the Queen Mother.
Unbelievable. What a pro.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't even know what the race was. But I had to tell him quite a few times in the week that, oh, yeah, this is the Ballymore, this is a Supreme. So he really just isn't aware of what the races are. He just bets the figures and purely that's it. So that's an interesting one for you. But that was a terrible result. And I think that we thought that we were going to see more Shishkin in the office, and we didn't, unfortunately. I think because people had doubles on Seguerha going on to Shishkin, they were probably just letting it run rather than going in again with the singles. And probably thought we were going to be able to make a bit of a book of it, but we didn't in the end, and unfortunately ended up doing £500,000. The next one to talk about would be the cross country. Tiger Roll was amazingly weak in the betting, mainly due to the rain, you would imagine. Was drifting all the time, and all the money was for the winner Delta work. Was actually a decent result on track, but a six-figure loser in the office. So it was a really tough result in the office. On track, I was able to try and cheer Tiger Roll home. A very peculiar walk-in for him with Delta work being booed. Indeed. It was very kind of jubilant, and it was banter. I mean, people had taken that literally. I don't think you can. It was just a bit of a joke, really. It was as soon as they crossed the line, there was a boo. So it wasn't like they were booing Delta work. They were just booing the fact that Tiger Roll didn't go and get the job done there.
Yeah, and it was a hell of a race, in fairness, and a hell of a return for Tiger Roll, who I honestly think should be running the Grand National, but that's for another day. I got involved in Andy Dufresne at an admittedly bad price in the Grand Annual. He was beaten by a horse with a bit of back form in Global Citizen, and then the bumper. I actually set this race out, but I was going to back American Mike. And there was a bit of a drift on Facile Vega on track as well, Flynn. It looked like there were ground concerns for him as expressed by Willie Mullins, but he got the job done. Global Citizen result for the books in the Grand Annual.
Yeah, so very good result in the Grand Annual. Andy Dufresne was really strong all day. There were quite a few non-runners in the race, so he kind of just held that 7 to 100 to 30 price. I was on at 16 anti-post. This was just a frustrating one to watch. It really was. Even though copping each way money, I feel like I must have had about 6 seconds last week. It was just one of those weeks. But anyway, we digress in it, and it was a good result for us having Global Citizen going and doing the business. On the bumper, interesting money on the day for Madman's Gate. The other, I think it's called Madman's Gate. That was the Willie Mullins horse.
Yeah, ran away with Rachel.
Madman's Game. Was obviously going to love the soft ground. Was about 25 times, backed into 10 to 1 on course, and that was a loser. We laid some industry money for Seabank Bistro that ended up coming fourth, and that could be a decent horse in time. But Facile Vega was just so impressive here. It was a terrible result in the office. Was the final leg of a couple of multiples. We had a 25,000 single on it in the office. I think that was a 2 to 1. So Facile Vega was just a terrible way to end day 2, and it was 2-0 to the punters.
Yeah, and then another extraordinary race to start day 3, where you have winning distances of 40 lengths, 28 lengths at Cheltenham, is completely mad on soft ground. And if you back Bob Bollinger, you were pretty much done for the day after this. I think you just count your lucky stars. I don't think he actually performed myself. I don't think he was really travelling, but what a performance by Galopin Des Champs.
Do you not just think that Galopin's just completely blown him away and he's made him look ordinary? I mean, look at the distance back to the others.
Yeah, there is that.
It was like 4 races happening.
Yeah, Rachel sort of said she fell 4 out. She wasn't that happy, but I don't know. Bob Bollinger didn't. His jumping was a bit of a mixed bag, but for me, maybe Galopin Des Champs is that good. Where he goes from here is the big thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think he's just a proper horse, and he did look it on track as well. He didn't even jump the last badly. He just kind of over jumped it a little bit. And Paul Town then coming out and saying that you wouldn't jump it any differently if they were doing it now. I find that hard to believe, but I would imagine he'd probably try and pop it, even though he saw the stride. We laid 40,000 in the office, 20,000 in the office. Galopin de Champ was Bob Oninger was actually a loser on course, which was very frustrating. We had laid similar bets on Bob Oninger in the office as well, just at a slightly bigger price, because Galopin was always the surer of the two. Galopin was very strong on course, actually. So it's just interesting to see where he goes next year. I'm surprised they're not going back hurdling with Bob Oninger, but we'll just have to wait to see kind of how that plays out with the both of them. What was the next race on the Thursday? I was trying to think. It was one of the handicaps, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Per Thames.
Yeah, the Per Thames, where we had third win going in, which was a decent result. Alaphilippe very, very well backed into 11-2 co-favourite. Winterfog was strong all day. He just didn't seem to stay the trip, did he, Winterfog, who kind of came there swinging Indeed. 2.5 miles out. And then for that last kind of couple of furlongs, just really struggled. Alaphilippe, thought he might have got it in the steward's room, but he ended up not getting it. Paddy Brennan was very frank, and he said in the steward's room that he didn't think that he was inconvenienced at all by a third win. So that's probably one of the main reasons why he kept the result. But it was a decent result, having a 25-1 winner there. And then it was all about Allaho in the Ryanair. This was a proper performance, Johnny, wasn't it? It
was 4-7. It was really, really hard to see how he was going to be beaten, and it was clockwork if you backed him as well. Go out in front. Obviously, Mr. Fish was the only horse from the race last year who was willing to take him on again, and he was ended up being a non-runner on the day.
Well, there you go. Eldorado Allen was actually in the van, and he's kind of stayed on well again, back into third. But Allaho was an absolutely terrible result. We had 130,000 at 8-13, 140,000 at 4-7. Lofty also laid a decent chunk down on the pitch. I think it was like €12,000 or something that Lofty laid, so he had it for at least 10 grand. So it was a terrible result, and it was just one of those that you were watching, and you were just never thinking that we were going to get it beat. Unfortunately, I'm surprised it went off so big at 4-7. I said before the festival this could be going off 3-on, but I do think there's a case that everybody's trying to jump over each other to be overly competitive these days at the festivals, especially on the short ones. And there's just a case that you'll probably end up getting inflated prices, and that's why we end up doing our dough, unfortunately.
Yeah, 109% SP on a 7-horse race as well. So very, very tight margins there, in fairness for the layers. Floor and Porter, what a ride by Danny Mullins. Well explained by Ruby Walsh, I think, on Racing TV over the course of the week. This was beautiful to watch. This was an interesting race. 10 runners. You can make a case for about 8 of them. How did you go?
Well, just going back to the percentage runner there. So we bet number 3 in Tats on the front line, and we were betting to 1p a runner most of the week, maybe between 1 and 1.2% a runner. So it was very, very competitive. We'll work out to State Man later, but I was 137-2 State Man for a fair bit of time, and I never saw it bigger than 11-4 on the TV. So there is definite value, potentially not for the each way part, but for the win only prices. Yeah. There is definite value in the ring, and you could obviously get on as well. So just a quick point there about how the betting ring is buzzing, and there's definitely some value to be had there. Just getting onto Florian Porter was the most popular horse on track of the day. Just couldn't stop laying it on track. In terms of the office, we actually made 20 grand from Champ. But Florian Porter was a bad result on course, was a decent result in the office. And what a ride from Danny Mullins, as you previously said. Just quickly on the plate, Imperial Alcazar coming second here was a decent result for us. We laid that pretty heavily. It was strong all day around the 9-2, 4-1 mark, got backed into 7-2. Cool Cody, fantastic performance. Kind of got shuffled back on the bend and then managed to get back in front and absolutely bolted away. What a lovable horse he is. Winning at 22-1 was a decent result for us. The race of the day, in terms of betting race of the day, was probably the Mares Novice Hurdle. This was all about Dino Blue, this race, Johnny.
Found absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, it was really keen and then just completely blew up. We laid €16,000 on course at 6-4. We laid 200,000 at 13-8 in the office, and then a further 10 grand on course at 6-4. So they were all over this Dino Blue. Couldn't get enough of it, and that was probably what swung the day towards us. Along with the last race, we're a 14-1 winner in the shape of Champard in the Kim Muir. I'd laid Schoolboy Errors to win 20 grand as a hedge bet on course. And then I'd laid Front of Assault to win 10. With the fractions as well. So there were some decent bets flying around on course for the front of the market, but the front of the market came nowhere here, and it was a result that solidified the fact that it would be 2-1 to the punters rather than 3-0.
Yeah, and it was definitely 3-1 after day 4, which started with Vauban going in at 6-4. This is a proper renewal of the triumph. Yeah,
I mean, this day was just absolutely relentless. This was one of my least favourite days I think I've ever had on a race course. Not because of the weather, which it normally is, but this was just completely results driven. It was just relentless losing all day, and it was really, really difficult to be taken, to be honest. But we still pay out with a smile as we usually do. It's just a hard way to end the meeting. Porticello was the one that we were laying on track. I laid a good bit of fractions to win 10 grand, to win another 10 grand at different prizes. I think I laid 14 and 12. But Vauban was the one they wanted to be with in the office, 120,000 at 13 to 8. And there was plenty more done at 15 to 8 earlier on in the day. So really well backed and a really, really poor result. It was just another Paul Town then. Willie Mullins thing absolutely swinging off the bit, coming down the near side rail, as they did with State Man in the county as well.
They did indeed. And we see this team of likely race kind of 5-year-olds not going for grade ones, but going for handicaps. The State Man did, and he did it very, very well. Yeah,
he did. I'm not sure how I feel about these very unexposed kind of graded novices coming into these handicaps. I kind of want them to have a certain amount of runs before they can run in these handicaps. I think that's something they should potentially bring in, just to give the others a bit of a chance. If Willie's always going to put one in that's bought for chunks and is obviously going to have so much so many pounds in hand because of just the absolute class of the horse, it's just going to be a difficult one. It's a bit different when he's winning it with someone like Arctic Fire, who's kind of been to the dances and then to win it, and then to go in and winning one of these handicaps. But with State Man, just a little bit disappointing. I think was really well backed. As I said, had plenty of 7-2 and 3-1 on the board, but went off 11-4 and just never looked in doubt. And it was 2-0 to the punters on day 4.
Some respite for the layers in the Albert Bartlett, but this was the sickening race of the festival, without a shadow of a doubt. Obviously, Hillcrest pulled up, never went to yard, but Ginto, who was marginally second favourite, I thought was going to win the race, suffered a horrific life-ending injury. Actually consoled Noel Moran just over email since, and he got back to me just saying you kind of got to move on, but it will take time. This was very, very tough for connections. Obviously, Noel and Valerie Moore looking for their first winner at Cheltenham, but you know, there's one thing having a horse finish in second or third. This was horrible.
Oh, absolutely horrific. I loved Ginto as well. I thought he was an absolute bull of a horse. I thought he was going to be a fantastic chaser. Just horrible to see. In terms of the ones that the punters wanted to be on, it was mainly Hillcrest, to be honest. We had 125,000 at 2, 28 grand at 9-4, 25 grand at 2-1. The punters on track did want to be a Ginto. Again, just very sad to see him obviously break down, come to last, and he did look all over the winner. The nice guy got the job done at 18-1. My lad, Barnestown lad, ran a really nice race back in third. I think he'll be a nice staying chaser for next year. But it was a good result for the book, but not in the way that we would like to do it.
Gold Cup, A Plutard 3-1, wins by 15 lengths. I think it's very, very hard to explain this performance in terms of his performance last year and his performance relative to Galvin, who flopped in the race. But Rachel Blackmore gave it a quiet ride, rode it for a turn of foot. It worked out. 3-1 favourite wins the Gold Cup.
Yeah, so I feel like with the Wednesday, obviously the ground was bottomless and they were struggling to get through it. And then as we got to latter stages of Thursday and then on to Friday, the ground was really quickening up again and they seemed like they were bouncing off the ground. When you watch A Plutard jump, he kind of quickens away from his jumps. He wouldn't have been able to do that. And I feel like the ground just came right for him on the day. There were question marks about whether he'd possibly stayed a Gold Cup trip. He obviously got beat by Minella Indo last year, but he obviously put in a fantastic performance here. Was a really poor result for us again.
You like Protectorat race. When I say Galvin flopped, I'm being very harsh there. He obviously did finish fourth, but he just couldn't go with the winner. Protectorat 10-1 ran very well for you.
Yeah, I thought Protectorat probably wanted a bit of softening ground. He's just got that action. I'm not saying for the trip, just in terms of his action. I thought he probably would have suited him, and it's just not come at the right time for him. I feel like with all my personal bets in the week, I feel like the grounds just could. I just wanted it the other way around. I wanted the rain later on in the week and not on the Wednesday, but it's just the way it works out. But Protectorat ran a really nice race, coming third at 10-1. The main two that would have been results for us would have been Protectorat and Album Photo, who was really well backed on the day.
He was sixes. Tornado Flyer nines. What a market!
Well, yeah, exactly. So it was the front of the market, like Minella Indo, who the punters didn't want to be with, drifting out all the way to 7-1. Some really big punters came from A Plutard in the office at around the 5-2, 11-4 mark. So much so that Ben grabbed his coat during the race and he shot off back home. So he was off, and then it was left for us to kind of do our cobblers on the remaining races. And these were some of the most sickening races I've ever watched as a bookmaker.
Billaway got up on the line to be winged leader, obviously. That was incredible. I think he only touched 20s or something in running, which you would have thought was actually on the low side, considering the way the race developed. And then Ellie Mae, obviously well back, albeit not favourite in the mayor's race. Concertista disappointing there. And does that bring you on to another loser in the Martin Pipe? How did the last three races go for you?
The Martin Pipe was all right. but they weren't as big a betting races as the others. Just starting with the 100 Chase, Billaway was a very solid loser. I've just been doing the figures in the office this morning as well, and Billaway just seems to be on everybody's account. So everyone wanted to be on Billaway at 13-8. We were getting a rub down from punters as well on course, so they just kept batting favourites. They obviously thought that horse racing punting was the easiest game in the world, and we were being rubbed down, and we're still paying out of a smile because that's what we do. But deep inside, it really does get you a little bit. But Billaway getting the job done at 13-8 was not a good result at all for us. I think I laid a 5,000 cash at the death as well at 13-8. So yeah, just wasn't a good result at all. Billaway had a bad result in the office. Ellie Mae was an absolute shocker of a result in the office and on course. On course, I laid a 10,000 cash bet at 9-4, followed by another 10,000 cash bet at 9-4. She never really looked like getting beat. The two market protagonists against her ran absolute stinkers as well. Mount Ida around the same price, and Contratista didn't run a nice race either. It looks like Mount Ida wants to go right-handed and wants a mile, really. Yeah. But Ellie Mae, fair play to her, did land the spools here. She never really looked in doubt, even though winning a small margin. As a bookie watching it, I never thought that we had a chance of getting her beat. And to be fair, after Billaway winning the race before, I didn't think I could get anything on the track beat. So was a terrible result, and I duly spent the next half an hour of my time paying out 2 lots of 22.5 grand plus the stake back. So that was a fantastic way to end my meeting there, Johnny. And in terms of the Martin Pipe, we did get a bit back here with Banbridge winning. Obviously, Patrick Mullins having a fantastic last day of it. The one they all wanted to be here on here was Langadan. Obviously, well plotted up. We obviously spoke about it on a good few trader chats with Langadan. Was brought down, unfortunately. One horse I did lay here was Party Business on course. I laid 100,000 to 3,000 with the fractions each way. And I think I got away with one because if you read the if you read the Racing Post text, held up in rear, badly hampered by fall of second, slightly hampered fourth, pushed along, still plenty to do on the outer before 2 out, headway and edge left before last, kept on final 110 yards, did well in the circumstances.
Did Star Sports do well in the circumstances over the week?
No, we didn't. It ended up being 3-1 to the punters. We'd done £2 million after 2 days. We got a little bit of that back on day 3, and then we just did some more on the last day. So it was a real poor day for us, and a week that we'll probably be putting behind ourselves, really, to be honest. But yeah, that is where we were at for Cheltenham. I hope that everybody had a fantastic week, and if you're a punter, I would imagine that you definitely had a fantastic week.
I guess briefly, what did it feel like in terms of the ring being back again? 2 years since you had a ring at Cheltenham. A lot has happened in terms of people's betting patterns over that time. It sounds like there was plenty of money there.
Yeah, it felt absolutely rammed. The first day is normally a little bit quiet, and especially the Supreme betting, but the Supreme betting was bang, 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 bang. It was so busy. And it was fantastic to see the punters out. I had loads of people coming up to me as well, Johnny, saying, "Oh, I love that show you do with the Irishman." So we had plenty of people coming up. So thank you if you did. I will shout out Connor because he was speaking to me for a fair bit about Trader Chat and all that. So I'll give him a little shout out. But yeah, no, it was fantastic to see the punters out. So many familiar faces as well. But yeah, it felt good to be back. But it was absolutely rammed, and I don't think they could have fit many more people in. Especially on the Thursday and Friday. And to be fair, the Wednesday felt busy inside because everyone was cramming in because of the rain. But no, it was great to be back.
Okay, let's we'll talk about what's coming up this week briefly. We will briefly talk football though now as well. Obviously, it was an FA Cup weekend. Arsenal got the job done against Villa, your beloved Arsenal, who look in prime candidates really at this stage to finish in the top 4. I actually thought they were, in hindsight, a backable price here, but they got the job done comfortably enough Saturday.
They did indeed. We're now into 1-2 to finish in the top 4. Chelsea are in there at 1-50, 5-2 Spurs, 9-2 Man United. Then you're out to 40-1 now. West Ham, so they're obviously not much of a runner. I thought it was a decent performance, and we just seemed to be getting the job done. And I'm loving the celebrations afterwards as well. A lot of people. I saw some people on Top Sport, Jamie O'Hara. I'm not his biggest fan, I will be honest, but he was saying, they're celebrating like they've won the league, but that's a good thing, I think. It just shows complete unity, and they're all striving towards a common goal, and every game matters a huge amount. So Arsenal are into 1-2, as we have previously reported. They would be a bad loser for us in the top 4 market. So from my star head, I won't be wanting Arsenal to get top four, but to be honest, I will be wanting Arsenal to get top four. We're obviously shorted in to finish in the top six. We're now 1 to 50 to get that. So that's the way that the top markets finish. In terms of the outright winner, we're 4-9 City, 13-8 Liverpool, and then 200 Bar. So that's turning into a proper race as well now, Johnny.
Yeah, and I make it, Arsenal lost their first three, so they've 54 points from their last 25 games after that really poor start. Arteta he looks a bit more like Guardiola, I think, with every day. Time to talk some Formula One as well. We had action in Bahrain.
We did indeed. So the season literally just got started the weekend just gone. Some really interesting kind of developments with the way that they have changed the cars and the regulations this year, because it means that Ferrari are now flying. They got backed in before the season started into 3-1. Red Bull were kind of short in the market along with Mercedes, but Ferrari are now 6-5 for the constructors. Another reason why they've obviously joined, and the main reason is because they picked up a 1-2. So they picked up maximum points for the first weekend. Red Bull were the big drifters up to 2-1. The main reason being because they picked up 0 points with their reliability issues. And Mercedes are in there at 15-8. You would imagine at some point in the season that Mercedes is going to start finding stuff. I don't think it's going to be within these first few weeks, but once they get to the European cities, then the Mercedes is going to start to find some performance. And I would imagine that taking a bet about Mercedes or even Hamilton probably isn't the worst thing to do in the world. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen's in there at 15-8. Leclerc, who is your winner from Bahrain, is 2-1. Hamilton is 3-1. 7-1 Carlos Sainz. I still think Carlos Sainz is a fair bet, to be honest. Even around the 7-1 mark. There was 1/10 between them at qualifying between Verstappen, Leclerc and Sainz. And I just think Sainz is a better driver than Leclerc, and I thought it last year as well. So if they don't favour Leclerc too much in terms of all the upgrades and the power on the car and all that gear, then I think Sainz is a decent price at 7s. Then you're out to 20-1, that's George Russell, and then 50 Bar. But it's going to be a good season to watch this year. Obviously, there's a huge buzz about Formula One. We do have an offer, which is our 5-second chance. So get 50% of your stake back as a free bet. If your driver finishes second, beaten under 5 seconds, that's obviously in the race winner market. And just going back to horse racing quickly, we had quite a few pipped offers cop in the week. So a lot of punters got their stake back up to £100 as your horse finishes second, being, I believe it was a length or less we did. It felt like there were quite a lot of those in the week. We obviously spoke about that third wind result. That was a tight finish with Alaphilippe. So there were a lot of those in the week. So a lot of punters got some free bets back there as well.
Yeah, there are plenty of short kind of margins, and if you were on the likes of obviously Gaelic Warrior was definitely some consolation considering what happened in that race just on the line by Brazil, one of the short margin losers of the week. Just in terms of racing, the Lincoln this weekend, it's interesting to know Harry Davies, £7 claimer, he's riding Modern News, he's a hot favourite in the race. Racing returns in Ireland as well on the flat, Nace and the Curragh. Yeah,
the Curragh's back. I was speaking to some of the Irish books. Ray Mulvaney was over in Seamus and all that. I was speaking to him about being back at the Curragh. So it looks like myself and Simon will be out there for the Irish Guineas in May, and then out for the Irish Derby as well. So that'll be good to go and see our Irish friends and punters over there. Just in terms of the Lincoln, we've got betted here. So Mustafa is 7-2. Modern News, as you said, has got will have the claimer on board, is 4-1. Saliem is 4-1, Valiant Prince 9-1, Sunray Major 10 and 11's Bar. We've got a big meeting over in Dubai as well this week. So you've got the Dubai Gold Cup, you've got the Godolphin Mile, you've got the Alcos Sprint, you've got the UAE Derby, the Shima Classic, the World Cup. So World Cup, you've got 5-6 favourite there with Life is Good. Hot Rod Charlie, who would have been seen over in the US, is 12-5, and then you're 7-1 Bar. In terms of the Alcos Sprint, we've seen some money from Man of Promise today. We're now into 7-4. Creative Forces 5-1, A Case of You 7, Sway to 7s, and then 8's Happy Romance. So some decent racing on the international front. Obviously, we've got, hopefully we see some decent horses come out of the Curragh. I think Joan of Arc won at that meeting last year, obviously went on to win one of the decent French races. I think it was the Diane, maybe. Hopefully we see some decent horses come out over at the Curragh, but we've also got some good international stuff, and then we've obviously got the Lincoln to look forward to as well.
We do indeed, and the spring has come around again, as has the flat. A little bit of golf and darts to finish up.
Yeah, exactly. So just going over to the golf, it's the WGC Match-Play this week, which is always a good tournament to watch. It's a little bit different to your conventional, obviously a match-play format. They start in groups of 4 and it's all seeded. Essentially how many points they get, and then they progress through to quarter-final, semi-final, and then final, etc., etc. John Rahm's your 12-1 favourite. JT also 12-1. Hovland is 14-1. Colin Morikawa is 16. Scheffler 16, and then your 20 Bar, that's Dustin Johnson and Kante. We are playing 4 places a quarter, so that's essentially if you get to the semi-finals, you copy each way part. We have got some increase your odds specials here. So John Rahm or JT to win was 11-2, now 7. And we've coupled up quite a few more players there. We've got biggest match winning margin priced up there. What would be favourite in that market? That would be 6 and 5 would be favourite at 13-8. But we've got loads of different options that you can bet on there. And we've also got to reach the final market. So John Rahm and obviously JT would be your favourites at 11-2, 13-2 Hovland, and 15-2 Bar. So plenty of markets to get stuck into on the WGC Dell Technologies Match-Play. And just touching on darts quickly, as we have obviously got the Premier League, which goes to Rotterdam this week. Obviously a very famous song, isn't it, Rotterdam? But Peter Wright would be your favourite there to win the week. That's 3-1. Van Gogh in 7-2, Price 4-1, and then your 13-2 Bar. We've got the original all price stuff. We've got loads of specials on there as well. So the sports guys obviously doing really well to churn out these specials in different markets. So do take a look at those. You can obviously bet the outright winner in the Premier League as well. So loads to look forward to. Even though Cheltenham's done and dusted, we've got the Grand National around the corner. F1's absolutely live at the moment. The golf is obviously getting into golf season now with the Masters only being a couple of weeks away as well. So we've got a huge amount going on the sport front, Johnny. And I must say, it does feel quite nice to be coming out of the jump season now, and I'm quite excited to get stuck into the flat stuff. Like whenever it does get to the end of the jumps, I am kind of a bit jumped out, and I'm ready to kind of see some flat performers come out now.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you back in Ireland as well at the Curragh for the Guineas. Big week or big year for the Curragh, obviously, having had its problems since its redevelopment. Crowds back, and fantastic season ahead on the flat. Thanks a million, Flynn.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Trader Chat. 3-1 to the punters in Cheltenham, and we've loads more to talk about as the year develops on the flat. The flat is back, and we hope you'll be back with us next week.